A millionaire brought his mistress home after his wife's funeral. The next day, the will was read, and he collapsed at how his wife had secured the fortune. The funeral home in Ridgefield, Massachusetts, was filled with mourners gathered to honor the memory of Melissa Sinclair. Rain tapped gently against the stained glass windows, and quiet sobs echoed throughout the chapel. Melissa's casket, surrounded by elegant white roses, her favorite flowers, lovingly cultivated in the garden behind the Sinclair estate, was the focal point of the service. However, in a private room upstairs, Gabriel Sinclair, the 70-year-old real estate tycoon, appeared untouched by the grief surrounding him. He was busy typing on his phone, a faint smirk forming on his face. Barbara Lane, who had served as the Sinclair's housekeeper for 4 decades, watched in silence. Her voice quivered as she finally broke the tension. "Mr. Sinclair, people are waiting to start the service." Gabriel glanced at her briefly, brushing off her concern with a curt response. "5 more minutes. I'm waiting for someone." Someone soon arrived. Samantha Brooks, a striking 45-year-old marketing executive. She walked in confidently, wearing a fitted black dress and, to the shock of everyone present, Melissa's iconic pearl necklace. It was unmistakable. The same pearls Melissa had cherished and worn every day for 45 years. They symbolized the deep bond between Melissa and Gabriel, a gift he had given her on the day they opened their first real estate office. Now, just days after her passing, the necklace adorned another woman. "Isn't the service lovely?" Samantha whispered to Gabriel, her voice loud enough to carry to nearby mourners. "Although those flowers feel a bit dated, we should hire a modern designer for the mansion." Barbara, standing nearby, clenched her fists in anger. Her mind drifted back to the sight of Melissa just last week, frail but determined, tending to those same roses in her garden, despite the toll chemotherapy had taken on her. The room erupted in murmurs. Is she wearing Melissa's pearls? He brought his mistress to the funeral. How could they be so disrespectful? The whispers grew, but the ultimate scandal came after the service ended. As mourners were still drying their tears, Gabriel stood and announced that an exclusive gathering would be held at the Sinclair mansion. When the first guests arrived, they found Samantha already in Melissa's walk-in closet. "These outdated dresses have got to go," Samantha declared, tossing Melissa's meticulously preserved wardrobe into large cardboard boxes. "This mansion could use a modern woman's touch." Barbara froze in the doorway, her heart sinking as she watched Samantha rummage through Melissa's cherished photo albums. "These aren't necessary anymore," Samantha said nonchalantly, dropping the albums into a trash bag. "The past is behind us." Then Barbara's eyes caught something. Melissa's treasured silver frame, holding her wedding photo, lying cracked and discarded amidst the rubbish. As Barbara gently retrieved it, a sealed envelope slipped from behind the frame. On the envelope, written in Melissa's distinctive Susanful script, were the words, "To be opened upon my death, for my one true love." Barbara quickly tucked the letter into her apron pocket, her hands shaking. She glanced up to see Samantha flaunting Melissa's pearl necklace around her neck. To Barbara's horror, Samantha also slid Melissa's wedding ring onto her finger, a ring that shouldn't even exist. Melissa had been buried wearing it. "Gabriel, darling," Samantha called out sweetly, "I found Melissa's wedding ring in her jewelry box. You must have swapped it out before the funeral. How thoughtful of you to keep it for me." Gabriel smiled smugly at his mistress. "Everything of Melissa's is yours now, my love. Tomorrow," he added, "we'll meet with the lawyers to finalize the will, and then we can move forward with our new life." But Gabriel had no idea that the letter tucked inside Barbara's pocket held more than just a few kind words. And at tomorrow's reading of the will, his life would take a devastating turn he could never foresee. As the evening shadows stretched across the estate, Barbara stood silently in the hallway, watching Samantha measure the master bedroom windows for new curtains. "These heavy drapes are dreadful," Samantha complained. "This entire house needs a fresh start." Thunder rolled across the sky, and for a split second, Barbara thought she caught Melissa's familiar grin reflected in the bedroom mirror. It was the same sly smile Melissa always had when she was 3 steps ahead of everyone else. Though Melissa had been gone for some time, Barbara knew one thing without a doubt. Tomorrow would be the day everything changed. The seeds of vengeance, sown long ago, were about to sprout, shaking the very core of the Sinclair legacy. Ridgefield, Massachusetts, 1975. Melissa Peterson pushed open the door to a modest real estate office, clutching a worn brown envelope. Inside, Gabriel Sinclair sat slumped over his cluttered desk, his head buried in his hands. Unopened notices and overdue bills were scattered everywhere. Without lifting his head, he muttered, "I can't pay you this week. The bank's foreclosing on the office. It's over." Melissa settled into the chair across from him and placed the envelope on the desk. "Actually, I might have something that can help," she said, sliding out a check. "My grandmother left me a small inheritance. It's not much, but it's enough to keep the office afloat and give us a fresh start." Gabriel's head shot up, his eyes wide. "Melissa, I can't take your money." "It's not a handout," Melissa replied, her tone firm. "It's an investment. I've seen how talented you are, Gabriel. You're incredible at sales, but you need someone to manage the finances. Someone like me." She smiled softly. Gabriel grasped her hands across the desk. "If you do this, I swear we'll be partners in everything. I'll never let you down." That vow endured for exactly 45 years, 2 months and 3 days. In the months leading up to her death, Melissa often sat in her home office, thumbing through old photographs. One picture in particular drew her attention. Their wedding day. Gabriel was fastening his grandmother's pearls around her neck. "With these pearls, I promise to love you forever," he had said. A loud knock at the door jolted her out of her reverie. "Mrs. Sinclair, Professor Turner is here," the assistant announced. Jessica Turner entered the room, laptop in hand. At 62, her presence was undeniable, exuding authority with every purposeful step. Melissa quickly slid the photos out of sight. "Thank you for agreeing to meet me one-on-one," she began. "Did you bring the papers I requested?" Jessica nodded and placed a thick file on the table. "It's everything about digital entrepreneurship for older women." "But Melissa," Jessica hesitated. "There's something I need to tell you. About Gabriel and me." Melissa raised her hand calmly. "I already know, Jessica. You and Gabriel were engaged in college and he left you for me." Jessica's eyes widened in shock. "You knew?" "I came across his old letters to you last month," Melissa said evenly. "The same day, I found his emails to Samantha." Jessica stared, speechless. "And that's exactly why I chose you for this project," Melissa continued. "You know what he's capable of." Jessica sank into a chair, her expression softening. "All this time, I thought you were the reason he left me," she admitted. "But now he's repeating the same cycle, doing to me what he did to you. Except this time." Melissa turned her laptop around, displaying rows of spreadsheets filled with property transactions and offshore accounts. "This time, he's going to realize that karma comes with interest," she said, clicking through the files. The evidence of millions in shady deals filled the screen. "Gabriel may think he built this empire, but I was the one keeping the books. Every risky move, every underhanded deal, every creative accounting trick. I documented it all." Jessica leaned closer, intrigued. "What are you planning to do?" "A foundation," Melissa said, her tone resolute. But not just any foundation. We're going to empower senior women to build online businesses. She reached for another stack of documents. But first, I need to quietly move some assets before Gabriel catches on. He's going to fight the will, Jessica warned. Melissa smirked knowingly. Let him try. I've spent 45 years understanding exactly how Gabriel operates. I know exactly what he's going to do. She picked up a photo of Gabriel and Samantha taken at a hotel, just like I figured out about them, way before he thought I ever would. Classic Melissa Sinclair, Jessica said with a sly smile. Always 3 moves ahead. But why are you showing me all this? Melissa's eyes glistened with tears as she answered, because I need someone who understands both the game of business and the sting of betrayal. The foundation must thrive. These women have to succeed. Jessica clasped Melissa's hand firmly. We won't let you down. After Jessica left, Melissa walked to her safe and unlocked it. She took out a USB drive, which contained every shady deal, every deceit, every betrayal Gabriel had orchestrated over 40 years. Next to it was a pile of property titles. All of them were now in Melissa's private trust. Oh, Gabriel, she murmured, running her fingers over her pearl necklace. You taught me everything I know about real estate. But you forgot the golden rule. She glanced around at the empire she had silently taken over. It's not just about location. Timing is everything. Tomorrow, Gabriel would bring Samantha back after the funeral, but Melissa had already made sure home meant something very different than what he expected. Mrs. Sinclair, you may want to sit down for this. Dr. Roberts held a folder with her test results. The hospital room felt unusually claustrophobic. Melissa sat upright in her chair. How long? She asked. 6 months, maybe 8 if we go with aggressive treatment, he replied carefully. And if I don't? 3 months at best. Melissa opened her calendar app with calm precision. 3 months will do just fine. On her way home, she stopped by her office to grab a few files. The building was eerily quiet, everyone long gone for the day. As she settled at her desk to check one last email, a notification lit up her screen. Gabriel forgot to log out of his email account again. The first message that caught her eye was from Samantha. I can't wait until she's out of the picture. I've already picked out new furniture for the bedroom. Melissa scrolled through more emails. There were pictures of Gabriel and Samantha in Hawaii, the same week he told her he was attending a real estate convention. Hotel bills, plans for a future together. Our time is near, Gabriel had written. The old lady won't hold on much longer. Melissa's hands were steady as she forwarded every email to her personal account. Then she noticed a video attachment. She clicked play. Gabriel's face appeared on the screen right there in their bedroom, with Samantha. Once Melissa's gone, everything here will be yours, he said, leaning in to kiss Samantha. I never loved her the way I love you. A knock at the door made Melissa shut the laptop quickly. Susan Wilson, a nurse in her 60s, stood in the doorway. Mrs. Sinclair, your husband is looking for you. He's worried about your doctor's appointment. Melissa smiled sweetly. Of course, he is. Gathering her things, she paused. Susan, could you give me a hand with something? For the next week, Melissa met with Susan frequently, supposedly for consultations about her upcoming treatment. But their conversations had little to do with cancer. Are you certain about this? Susan asked one day, studying an old photo Melissa had handed her. Absolutely. Does Gabriel know? Susan hesitated. About the baby? Melissa's gaze sharpened. Susan, I found the letters. From 1982, Gabriel got you pregnant during our first year of marriage and then paid you to vanish. Susan slumped into a chair. I never touched his money. I raised Thomas alone. The same Thomas who donated his kidney to Gabriel 15 years ago, Melissa said, reaching for Susan's hand. Does Gabriel know that kidney came from his own son? No, Susan whispered. Susan wiped a tear from her cheek. Thomas doesn't know either. He believes he gave his kidney to a stranger. Melissa nodded. Susan, I need your assistance not just as a nurse, but also as someone Gabriel betrayed. As Melissa began to explain her plan, Susan's eyes widened in astonishment. That's genius. But why tell me all of this? Susan asked. Because in 6 months, Gabriel will need someone to explain exactly why he's lost it all, Melissa replied, handing Susan a sealed envelope, and you'll be the one to deliver the message. Later that evening, Melissa attended her first class on entrepreneurship. Jessica, the instructor, was teaching older women how to launch online businesses. Watching them learn about websites and social media, Melissa felt her plan take even clearer shape. At home, Gabriel was waiting for her. Where were you? I've been worried sick, he said. At therapy, Melissa lied smoothly. Doctor's orders. Gabriel embraced her tightly. Whatever you need, honey. I'm here for you. Melissa hugged him back, feeling the weight of the USB drive hidden in her pocket. I know you are, dear. Right up until the very end. That night, Melissa wrote in her journal, Gabriel thinks he's waiting for me to die, but I'm not his victim. I'm his karma. And karma comes with compound interest. She glanced at a photo of Susan's son, the kidney donor Gabriel never knew about, and smiled. Some secrets were meant to be carried to the grave. Others were worth saving for just the right moment. Tomorrow, she would begin selling their properties. Next week, she'd transfer the money. And in 6 months, Gabriel would learn the hard way that his biggest mistake wasn't betraying her. It was underestimating her. In the chemotherapy ward at Ridgefield Memorial, the air was filled with the low hum of conversation. Melissa sat in her usual chair, quietly observing as 2 other women worked on craft projects during their treatments. Emily Harper, a cheerful 70-year-old, passed around homemade cookies. Paula Lee, 66, sat quietly knitting caps for cancer patients, her hands moving steadily. Melissa, you must try one of these cookies, Emily insisted, offering a plate. It's my family's secret recipe, passed down for years. They're amazing, Melissa admitted, savoring the taste. You could sell these, Emily sighed. My grandson says the same thing, but who's buying from someone my age? Paula glanced up, smiling. That's why I don't sell my caps. Nobody takes older people seriously anymore. Melissa was about to reply when loud voices erupted in the hallway. I don't care who you are. You can't just change patient appointments. Susan's firm voice rang out, addressing a young woman. Do you even know who I am? The girl shot back, waving her phone. My mum's marrying Gabriel Sinclair. You better get used to taking orders from me. Melissa sat straighter. That had to be Haley, Samantha's daughter. Later, at home, Melissa found Haley in her study, rummaging through drawers. Can I help you? Melissa asked firmly. Haley barely looked up. Melissa's eyes scanned her scattered photo albums on the floor. Those are private, Melissa said. We're private, Haley sneered. Mom says this will all be ours soon. She grabbed a photo. Who's this man with Gabriel? Melissa took the photo. Gabriel stood beside Jonathan Brooks, Samantha's father, 2 decades ago. Just an old business partner, she said. Mom never talks about my grandfather, Haley muttered. She said he abandoned her. Melissa sat down. Is that what she told you? Jonathan didn't abandon anyone. Gabriel ruined him. Haley froze. What do you mean? Jonathan Brooks was Gabriel's partner. Everyone, including the one where he discussed how to destroy Jonathan Brooks. But there's more. Samantha's been recording him too. Melissa's lips curled into a smile. Of course she has. She's Jonathan's daughter, after all. Melissa, these recordings, They could bring everyone down, Catherine warned. That's the goal, Melissa replied evenly. Sometimes, destruction is necessary to rebuild. That evening, Melissa met Emily and Paula at a cafe. A business course? Now? Emily asked, skeptical. Why not? Melissa said, pulling out a course outline. We've got skills, experience, and stories worth sharing. Let's make them work for us. Paula touched one of her knitted hats. Do you really think people would buy these? I know they would, Melissa replied, opening her laptop with a confident smile. Let me show you something. Melissa's tone was steady as she explained Jessica's digital entrepreneurship program. She noticed the growing interest in their eyes. These women, like her, had been underestimated for years. Her phone vibrated with a message from Susan. Haley asked about her grandfather at the hospital today. She seems really upset, Melissa responded. The truth has a way of rattling people. Just as she hit send, another text came through from Barbara. Mrs. Sinclair, Haley's been crying in her car outside the mansion for an hour. Should I check on her? Melissa's reply was swift. No. Let her work through it. The truth is best learned through experience. Melissa's gaze returned to Emily and Paula, now animatedly sharing ideas for their ventures. This wasn't about vengeance anymore. It was about building something lasting. Her legacy wouldn't rest on Gabriel's downfall, but on empowering those he dismissed. In Jessica's classroom at the community college, women over 60 sat engrossed in their laptops. From the back row, Melissa watched Emily create her cookie business website. Remember, Jessica told the class, your experience is your advantage. People trust wisdom. Melissa's phone buzzed once more. A text from her lawyer read, 3 more properties transferred. Gabriel hasn't noticed yet. Mrs. Sinclair, Linda, Gabriel's secretary for over 3 decades, appeared in the doorway. Mr. Sinclair is looking for you. He's furious about the Westbrook Plaza sale. Melissa checked her watch. Everything was on track. At Sinclair Real Estate, Gabriel was pacing in his office. Who approved the sale of Westbrook Plaza? That was worth millions, he barked. You did, sweetheart, Melissa said smoothly, handing him the document. Here's your signature, Melissa said, holding the paper. Gabriel froze. I didn't sign this. You did, last month. During dinner, when Samantha wore that red dress you bought her. Gabriel's face turned pale. How do you know about that dress? He stammered. The same way I know about the house in Miami, Melissa replied with a calm smile. I know everything, Gabriel. Before he could respond, his assistant rushed in. Sir, Turner Construction is withdrawing from all projects. They claim there's evidence of unsafe materials. What? That's ridiculous, Gabriel exclaimed. And Jensen's account, it's gone too, the assistant added, handing him resignation letters. Half the sales team quit this morning as well. Gabriel sank into his chair. This can't be real. It's real, Melissa said softly, just like you planned Jonathan Brooks's fall to be real. You don't know anything about that, Gabriel growled. Melissa played a recording from her phone. His voice, unmistakable, laid out the plan to frame Brooks. Where did you get that? Gabriel demanded. The same place I got everything else, Melissa said. You should really change your passwords, dear. Samantha stormed in just then. Gabriel, we have a major issue. Not now, he barked. Yes, now, she insisted. Haley's asking about my father. She found old articles about the trial. She knows what you did. As they argued, Melissa slipped out. In the hallway, she met Jessica. How many women joined? Melissa asked. 30 so far, Jessica said. Emily's cookies already have pre-orders, and Paula's caps are trending. Perfect. And the other matter? Melissa asked. Jessica handed her a stack of letters. Found them in the attic. Every promise Gabriel made before he left me for you. We'll need those later, Melissa said, for when he tries to fight the will. That afternoon, Melissa met with her lawyer. Is everything in place? Properties moved? Documents submitted? Evidence secured? She asked. He hesitated. Melissa, this isn't just revenge. You're dismantling everything he's built. Not dismantling, she corrected. Transforming. How many properties did we donate to the Women's Business Initiative? 5 office buildings and 3 retail spaces, he replied. Gabriel's going to explode. More than explode, Melissa said. He'll try to stop it. She handed him a USB drive. That's why we have this. Later at the hospital, Susan updated her. Thomas asked about his father again, Susan said. He's putting things together. Does he know he saved Gabriel's life? No, but as a doctor, he could access the transplant records. Melissa smiled. Perfect timing. Her phone buzzed with a message from Haley. Is it true? Did Gabriel ruin my grandfather? Melissa replied, Ask your mother about Project Sunrise. Ask why she came back to Ridgefield. That evening, Melissa joined her last class at Jessica's program. The women were sharing updates. Emily had deals with 3 restaurants. Paula's caps were featured in a fashion blog. Even Barbara was starting a home organizing business. You've given us our power back, Emily said. No, Melissa replied. I just reminded you where it was. On her way home, a message came from her lawyer. All transfers done. Everything's untraceable. Gabriel's name is gone. Melissa touched her pearls, the ones Samantha would wear, and smiled. Everything was set. Tomorrow marked the beginning of her final treatment. Within 3 months, her time would come to an end. But her revenge? That would endure. And Gabriel? He was about to realize that the empire he built on deceit was no match for the power of truth. It would all start with the ultimate price, his own son's betrayal. At the law office of Davidson and Partners, the room fell quiet as Melissa's will was about to be unveiled. Gabriel sat with an air of confidence, his hand resting on Samantha's. Barbara, still in her housekeeper's uniform, lingered in the corner, while Susan stood near the doorway, clipboard in hand. Before we begin, Mr. Davidson announced, Mrs. Sinclair instructed that we play a video first. Gabriel's brow furrowed. A video? He questioned, just as the screen came to life, revealing Melissa's face. She wore her signature pearls, the very ones now adorning Samantha's neck. Hello, Gabriel, her recorded voice greeted. If you're watching this, I'm no longer here. By now you've probably already moved Samantha into our home, she said, her voice calm but firm. But let's talk about that home for a moment. And the empires built on lies. Gabriel's confident smirk began to waver. First, Melissa continued, the Sinclair real estate empire. Over the past 6 months, I've been transferring properties out of the company, all perfectly legal, all with your signature. Do you remember those documents you signed over dinner with Samantha? Gabriel's face turned pale. 75% of the properties have been sold, Melissa went on. The proceeds established the Melissa Sinclair Foundation for Women's Entrepreneurship. The remaining properties, donated directly to the foundation. This is impossible, Gabriel shot up from his chair. Oh, but it's done, Melissa's voice replied coolly. Everything was in my name. You made sure of that to avoid taxes. Samantha gripped Gabriel's arm tightly. What does she mean? She asked, her voice unsteady. Melissa leaned forward with a pointed look. Don't forget the building code violations you covered up, the fraudulent loans, and poor Jonathan Brooks, Samantha's father. You framed him to hide your crimes. Samantha let go of Gabriel's arm, her hand trembling. The evidence is secured with several law firms. If you contest this will, everything goes straight to the authorities. Mr. Davidson paused the video. Shall I continue? Gabriel slumped in his chair, visibly shaken. What does she want? He muttered. The foundation gets everything, Mr. Davidson explained, except 25% of the company, which you can keep under one condition. You teach business classes at the foundation 30 hours a week for a year. Never, Gabriel hissed, his face hard with defiance. Then you get nothing, Mr. Davidson said, his voice unwavering. And the evidence will be made public. The video resumed. Melissa's smile widened. One more thing, Gabriel. Remember your kidney transplant? Want to know who your donor was? Susan stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. My son, she said. Your son. Gabriel's jaw dropped. What? He stammered. Susan nodded. The baby you paid me to care for in 1982. He became a doctor. He saved your life, and you never even knew. Samantha stood abruptly, anger flashing in her eyes. You had a son? Another secret? She yanked the pearls from her neck, scattering them across the floor. What else have you hidden from me? Melissa's voice from the video cut through the tension. Ask him about Project Sunrise, she said coldly. Ask what really happened to your father. Haley burst into the room, tears in her eyes. I know what happened, she said, her voice shaking. I found proof in Melissa's study. Everything Gabriel did to destroy Grandpa. Haley, wait, Samantha called, but her daughter ran out sobbing. Mr. Davidson cleared his throat, his tone measured. There's more. Mrs. Sinclair left specific instructions regarding the inheritance timing. Any future wife of Mr. Sinclair will have to wait 15 years before gaining access to his assets. Samantha grabbed her handbag. 15 years. No way I'm waiting that long. She marched toward the door. This isn't the deal we made, Gabriel. Call me when you sort this mess out. Samantha, wait, Gabriel pleaded desperately. Melissa's recorded voice continued, unwavering. Barbara, could you pass my pearls to Susan? She'll need them as she steps into her role as the Foundation's director. Gabriel stood motionless, watching as Susan gently put on Melissa's pearls. Then, Melissa's final words echoed. Oh, and Gabriel, remember when you told me you never loved me the way you loved Samantha? You weren't wrong. I loved you enough to build an empire with you. But you loved me so little that you couldn't even wait until my funeral to replace me. The screen went black, leaving a silence that spoke volumes. Gabriel sat in silence among the ruins of what he had once created. The Foundation's first classes start next week, Susan informed him. Don't be late. Your students will be expecting you. As the others left the room, Barbara quietly placed an envelope in front of Gabriel. Mrs. Sinclair wanted you to have this privately. With unsteady hands, Gabriel opened it to find a single photograph, him and Melissa in their early days, full of ambition and hope. On the back she had written, The biggest mistake in real estate isn't location, Gabriel. It's thinking you own something that never truly belonged to you. When Gabriel looked up, he discovered himself alone in the conference room, with a collection of documents listing everything he had lost or purposefully destroyed. 3 weeks later, Gabriel sat in his office, phone in hand. Samantha hadn't returned his calls. He'd seen the news from Miami. She was now dating Tom Reynolds, his fiercest rival. You've got 20 minutes before your first class, Susan announced from the doorway, her calm demeanor underscored by Melissa's pearls. The Foundation won't manage itself. I'm not here to teach anyone anything. Next step, the FBI gets the evidence. Susan placed a folder on the desk in front of him. Your call. The room was packed with women, all over 60. Emily sat up front, her laptop already displaying her cookie business website. Paula carefully laid out her knitting samples across the desk. Welcome to Business Marketing 101, Gabriel grumbled. Speak louder, a voice called from the back. "Some of us lost our hearing laughing at guys like you." Laughter rippled through the class. Gabriel spotted the source of the comment, Diana Chang, a woman he had evicted from one of his properties the previous year. His phone vibrated. A text from his lawyer appeared. "The FBI is asking questions about Project Sunrise. Someone sent them documents." Another message buzzed in from an unknown number. "Dad, we need to talk." Gabriel's hands trembled as he looked up, catching Susan's steady gaze. "He figured it out on his own," she said, her voice low but firm. "Check the transplant records at the hospital. Does he know everything? About you paying me to disappear?" "Yes," Susan replied, stepping closer. "He knows. He also knows how you threatened to ruin my nursing career if I ever told the truth." The classroom door swung open. Thomas entered, tall, composed, and wearing a doctor's coat. "This thrilling story with many twists and turns must be making you quite surprised. Leave a comment, Coca-Cola, to relax a bit before we continue the story." Gabriel's breath caught as he saw his own eyes staring back at him. "Class dismissed," Susan said sharply. "Except you, Gabriel, you need to hear this." As the women filed out, Thomas took a seat across from him. "So, you're the man who abandoned my mother." "I was young. I made mistakes," Gabriel stammered. "Spare me." Thomas placed a stack of hospital records on the desk. "I'm also the one who saved your life. Genetics are funny, aren't they? Almost a perfect match." "Thomas, I can explain." "Explain what? How did you pay my mother to disappear? Or how, in 40 years, you never once cared to ask about your son?" Susan stood silently by the door, her expression unreadable. "I have a trust fund," Gabriel said. "I can fix this." "Fix it?" Thomas scoffed. "Melissa already took care of that. She left me controlling interest in the medical center, the one where you cut every corner." Gabriel's phone buzzed again. His lawyer was calling, warning him about the SEC's investigation into his offshore accounts. Melissa's evidence was airtight. "She planned this," Gabriel whispered. "Of course she did," Susan said, stepping forward. "Melissa made sure Thomas would control the medical center. She also ensured I'd run the foundation, and you'd lose everything that mattered." "I still own 25% of the company," Gabriel said desperately. "About that," Thomas replied, holding up some papers. "Those building violations you buried. As chief of staff, it's my job to report them." "You wouldn't," Gabriel said, his voice shaking. "Watch me," Thomas said coldly. "You know, when I donated my kidney, I thought I was helping a stranger. Turns out, I saved the man who tossed my mother aside like trash." Gabriel's phone kept buzzing with messages from his lawyers, the FBI and the SEC. His empire was falling apart. Thomas paused at the door. "One more thing. Haley visited me at the hospital. She needed to vent about disappointing fathers. We're having dinner tonight. Your daughter and your son. Karma's funny, isn't it?" After they left, Gabriel slumped in his chair and opened his email. Samantha had sent a picture of herself with Tom Reynolds smiling on his yacht in Miami. Her message read, "Thanks for the intro. Tom's businesses are legit, unlike yours." Gabriel's eyes drifted to his desk drawer, where he used to keep his whiskey. Gabriel's heart sank as he unfolded the note, the familiar curves of Melissa's handwriting spelling out a bitter truth. "The worst prison isn't built with bars, Gabriel. It's built with the choices we make." His phone buzzed again, the vibration cutting through the silence. The message was brief. "Mr. Sinclair, this is the FBI. We need to discuss Project Sunrise." Gabriel turned to the window, his eyes falling on the foundation building next door. Through the glass he could see his former clients, now students, creating futures he had once jeopardized. Those dreams, rising from the ashes of his lies, were out of his control now. He could only watch, lesson by lesson, as they took shape. 2 months into teaching, Gabriel noticed an undeniable shift. His students weren't just learning, they were succeeding. Emily's cookies were now sold across 5 states. Paula's knitting patterns were viral hits online. Barbara's home organizing service had a months-long waiting list. Today's topic is online marketing, Gabriel announced, this time without Susan having to prompt him. Diana Chang raised her hand, her sharp gaze cutting through him. Like Melissa's website, she asked. Gabriel's voice faltered. What website? The one she created to document everything, Diana replied, opening her laptop. She started it after learning about Samantha. The room went still as Diana turned the screen around. A timeline appeared, each entry meticulously detailing Gabriel's betrayals over 40 years. Melissa was my best friend in college, Diana said calmly, before you stole her from her fiancé, Jonathan Brooks. Gabriel collapsed into his chair, stunned. Melissa was engaged to Samantha's father. Diana's smile held no warmth. Jonathan adored her, but you promised her a bigger dream. When he threatened to expose you, you destroyed him. That's why Samantha came back, Gabriel whispered, the pieces of his past snapping into place. She's not Jonathan's revenge. She's Melissa's justice. After class, Gabriel saw Susan waiting by the door. It's time for your meeting with Thomas, she reminded him. The hospital cafeteria was almost empty. Thomas and Haley sat together, looking through old photos. Dad used to bring me here, Haley said, before he disappeared. Before Mom married that rich guy in Miami. My mom worked shifts here, Thomas replied, a single mom raising a doctor. Gabriel walked up to them. Thomas? Haley? Gabriel, they replied, neither saying Dad. I've been thinking, Gabriel began, about fixing things. A little late for that, Thomas replied coldly. Maybe not. Gabriel placed papers on the table. I'm signing over my shares, half, to each of you. Haley looked shocked. Why? Because Melissa was right, Gabriel admitted, his voice cracking. I spent my life building lies. Maybe you can create something real. Like what? Thomas asked. Like making the medical center a place that truly helps people. No shortcuts, no lies. And you? Haley demanded. I'll keep teaching, Gabriel said. My students remind me of Melissa when we met. Smart, determined, better than I was. Diana arrived holding a photo. Speaking of Melissa, she said, handing it to Gabriel, it showed Melissa and Jonathan Brooks, young and smiling. The day you met Melissa, Diana explained, she was choosing her wedding dress. Jonathan had spent years saving for their real estate business. Then you offered her a partnership. Gabriel stared at the photo, his voice low. I didn't know. You never took the time to ask, just like you didn't ask about Thomas, or why Samantha really returned, or why Melissa held on to every receipt, document and shred of evidence, exposing your deceit for 4 decades. But why bring this to my attention now? Diana gave Melissa's trademark, knowing smile. Because tomorrow's lesson is about karma, and you're the prime example. That evening, Gabriel stayed late at the foundation. A new visitor approached his desk, an older woman he didn't recognize. Can I help you? Actually, I'm here to help you. She sat down, calm and assured. I'm Jonathan Brooks's mother. Melissa asked me to give you this after she passed. She handed him a sealed envelope. Inside was the original partnership agreement Gabriel had signed with Melissa, dated 1975. Scrawled across the bottom, Melissa had written, "The best revenge isn't destroying someone's dreams, Gabriel. It's letting them feel what it's like to see others build their dreams on the ruins of yours." Gabriel looked up, stunned, but Jonathan's mother had already left. He glanced out the window at the courtyard, where his students were gathered. Women he might have dismissed in the past were now creating thriving futures, not with lies like he had used, but with the truth Melissa had empowered them with. For the first time, Gabriel Sinclair felt the weight of true poverty. The foundation flourished beyond Melissa's wildest dreams. 6 months after it opened, Emily's cookie business secured a contract with a national grocery chain. Paula's knitting patterns earned her a feature on a popular morning show. The waiting list for classes swelled to over 300 women. Gabriel witnessed it all from his modest office, a repurposed gardener's shed on the mansion's grounds. "Your 9 o'clock is here," Susan announced, interrupting his thoughts. Samantha entered, her demeanor noticeably more subdued than before. The high-end designer outfits were gone, replaced with straightforward business attire. She took a seat and spoke plainly. "Gabriel, we need to talk. Is this about Tom Reynolds throwing you out after he lost everything in Miami?" Gabriel asked as Samantha sat down. "I deserve that," she admitted. "But I'm not here for money." "Then why?" Samantha pulled out an envelope. "Because Melissa knew this would happen. She left it with her lawyer and said to give it to me when I had nothing left." Gabriel leaned forward. "What does it say?" Samantha unfolded the paper, her hands trembling. "It's a job offer. Teaching marketing at the foundation. She knew I'd fail in Miami. She knew I'd come back." "And you want the job?" Gabriel asked softly. "I want to make things right. With Haley. With my father's legacy." Before Gabriel could respond, Haley and Thomas appeared in the doorway. "Mom?" Haley said coldly. They hadn't spoken in months. "Hi, sweetie," Samantha started. "Trying to manipulate someone else?" Haley asked, arms crossed. "No," Samantha said. "I'm here because of Melissa's letter." Thomas stepped forward. "The one about teaching marketing?" Samantha looked surprised. "You knew?" "Melissa left letters for everyone," Susan said from the doorway, "all perfectly timed for when we needed them." Gabriel opened his desk drawer, revealing a stack of envelopes. "She always knew when to send them," he murmured. "Did you read today's?" Susan asked. Gabriel shook his head, then opened the one labeled, "When Samantha Returns." Melissa's words were clear. True power isn't in destroying people, Gabriel. It's in giving them the chance to rebuild, just like I'm giving you. The door opened again as Jessica Turner walked in. "Your new marketing team is ready," she said. Samantha followed her to a classroom where 20 women were waiting. "These are your new students," Jessica said, gesturing to the women, all former victims of Gabriel's business schemes. Each of them had lost something to Sinclair real estate. Now, they were here to figure out how to rebuild. Samantha faced the group of women. "I'm not who you think I am," she said quietly. "We know exactly who you are," one woman interrupted. "Melissa told us about your father, your revenge plan, everything." "Then why would you want me to teach you?" Samantha asked, her voice shaking. Jessica stepped forward. "Because Melissa believed in second chances," she said, "even for people who don't deserve them." Gabriel watched as Samantha began to cry. For once, her tears seemed genuine, not the calculated ones he'd seen before. Haley shifted closer to her mom. "Dad's teaching here too," she said softly. Maybe we can all learn something." Thomas placed a hand on Gabriel's shoulder. "Melissa's last letter to me said something I keep thinking about. Forgiveness isn't forgetting the past. It's about building a better future." Susan touched her necklace. The pearls Melissa left her. "The foundation's anniversary is next week," she said. "Melissa had special instructions for the event." "What kind of instructions?" Gabriel asked. Susan smiled. "You'll see. She saved her biggest surprise for last." As the class started, Gabriel noticed Samantha struggling to connect with her students. She wasn't succeeding yet, but she was trying. It reminded him of his own struggles. His phone buzzed. A message from Jonathan Brooks's mom appeared. Melissa's final video will play during the anniversary. Are you ready for her last lesson? Gabriel looked around the room, his son, his almost daughter, his ex-mistress. He saw the lives he'd hurt and the people working to rebuild. He typed his reply, "No, but maybe I'm not supposed to be." The reply came instantly. "Melissa said you'd say that. She also said it means her plan will work." Gabriel glanced at Melissa's unopened letter in his pocket. Her words echoed in his mind. Sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't punishment, it's redemption. The morning before the Foundation's anniversary, Susan found Gabriel staring at Melissa's pearls in their case. "Do you know the real story behind those?" she asked. "I gave them to her when we got our first office," Gabriel said. "No? That's your story, not hers." Susan unlocked the case, removed the necklace, and revealed a tiny USB hidden in the clasp. Melissa never wore these just for looks. They were her insurance. Every conversation, deal, and lie is recorded here. Gabriel sat down, stunned. All this time. "That's not the biggest secret," Susan said, pressing the largest pearl, which clicked open to reveal a microchip. "This holds everything on Project Sunrise, your offshore accounts, and why Jonathan Brooks went to prison." "Why? Tell me now," Gabriel asked. "Because Melissa's final video airs tomorrow. You need to be ready." Jessica entered, carrying letters. "I found these in my attic," she said. "Every promise you made to me before you left for Melissa. She told me to keep them until now." Gabriel took the letters. "I was different then." "Were you?" Jessica replied, placing Melissa's diary on the desk. "Read page 43. Gabriel opened it. "Today," Gabriel proposed. "He doesn't know I heard him make the same promises to Jessica last month, but I said yes anyway. Someone needs to stop him from hurting others, even if it takes 40 years. She married me knowing I was lying," Gabriel said softly. "She married you to protect others," Jessica said. "The foundation, the workshops, the evidence, it was all planned from the start." Barbara entered with a photo album. "Mrs. Sinclair wanted you to see these today," she said. The album held photos of everyone Gabriel had wronged: Jonathan Brooks, Jessica, Susan, evicted families, and betrayed partners. "Melissa kept track of them all," Barbara explained. "She secretly helped them, paid for Susan's nursing school, funded Jessica's teaching degree, and supported Jonathan Brooks's mother after his imprisonment." Thomas and Haley arrived next with boxes of documents. "Found these at Mum's in Miami," Haley said. "Samantha kept records too, not just of your lies, but her own." Thomas opened a file. "Samantha worked with Melissa over the past year. Every confession, every record, it was all planned." Samantha stood in the doorway. "Melissa contacted me 6 months before she died, showed me proof you framed my father, and gave me a choice: expose you or go down with you." Gabriel scanned the room. "You were all part of this." "Melissa brought us together," Susan said. "She offered everyone you hurt the same choice: revenge or redemption." "And which did you choose?" Gabriel asked. Susan gestured at the foundation. "What do you think?" Gabriel's phone buzzed with a message from Jonathan Brooks' mother. "Ready for tomorrow's video?" Another email arrived from Melissa's old account. The pearls weren't just jewelry. They're key. Tomorrow they unlock everything. Diana entered last, with a letter. "Melissa wrote this before she died," she said. "It explains why she forgave you and chose redemption." Gabriel opened it with trembling hands. "Dear Gabriel, I could have exposed you with a single pearl's worth of proof. Instead, I turned your lies into something greater. Tomorrow, you'll understand why. The pearls you gave me meant to bind became the key to freedom. For everyone, including you. Love always, Melissa. Susan carefully closed the case, holding the pearls. Tomorrow, in Melissa's video, these pearls will tell their final story. The story of a woman who turned decades of lies into a legacy of truth, Susan said with a smile. Melissa's last lesson begins in 12 hours. Gabriel, surrounded by those he had wronged, felt the weight of the coming truth. Tomorrow, Melissa's video and the pearls would reveal their secret. For the first time in 40 years, he was afraid. The Foundation's packed auditorium buzzed during the anniversary celebration. 100 graduates sat proudly at the front. Emily's cookies were served, and Paula's scarves adorned every chair. From the back, Gabriel watched Susan approach the podium, wearing Melissa's pearls. "Welcome to our first graduation ceremony," Susan began. "Before we celebrate, Melissa left us a final message." The lights dimmed as Melissa's smiling face appeared on screen. "Hello, my dear students," she said warmly. "If you're watching, it means we've succeeded beyond my hopes. But there's one final lesson about love, forgiveness, and legacy." The video split to footage of Gabriel bringing Samantha home after the funeral, wearing Melissa's pearls. "Gabriel, I knew about Samantha long before you thought I did, just like I knew every betrayal, every scheme. The pearls you gave me recorded everything." Gasps filled the room as Susan removed the necklace, revealing its hidden technology. "You never understood," Melissa said. "This wasn't revenge. It was love. Love for everyone you hurt. Jonathan Brooks, who loved me first. Jessica, who you abandoned. Susan and Thomas, who you rejected. And every family you displaced." The screen showed graduates starting businesses and rebuilding their lives. "This foundation isn't just about business," Melissa continued. "It's about turning pain into purpose. Your lies became lessons. Your betrayals, new beginnings." Her face softened. "Susan, open the pearl." Susan twisted it, revealing a small key. In the basement, behind the old wine rack, is a safe this key unlocks. Thomas and Haley retrieved documents. "These prove Jonathan Brooks's innocence," Melissa said. "They also protect everyone here from legal repercussions. The FBI has copies. Your empire wasn't just transferred, Gabriel. It was transformed, legally and permanently." The screen split, showing success stories. "Emily's cookies are nationwide, Paula's designs are in magazines, and every woman here built beauty from your deception," Melissa said, eyes wet. "But my greatest hope was your redemption. These months teaching here, you've changed." Clips of Gabriel teaching played. "Your graduation gift is forgiveness. Not just from me, but everyone you wronged. They chose it, inspired by what we built." The audience stood, following Susan's lead, and turned toward Gabriel. "We forgive you," they said together. Melissa's voice echoed. "The pearls are yours now, Gabriel. Not to remind you of your lies, but to mark your transformation. Susan will give them to you after this video. They no longer hold evidence, only the power to record new truths." Gabriel wiped his tears as Susan approached with the necklace. "And one more thing," Melissa added. "Jonathan Brooks is here." The back door opened, and Jonathan Brooks, older but strong, stepped in. "Hello, Gabriel," he said. "Melissa asked me to be here," Jonathan explained. "Something about closing circles and opening hearts." Melissa's voice continued. "Love isn't about ownership, Gabriel. It's about purpose. I loved you enough to stop you, to help you change, and to show you true wealth lies in what we give." As the screen went dark, Gabriel held the pearls. "I don't deserve these," he whispered. "No, Susan replied, "but you've earned the chance to become someone who does." The audience applauded as Gabriel walked to the podium, pearls in hand, his journey of redemption just beginning. A year later, the Sinclair mansion became a community center. Emily's cookie business filled the ballroom with warmth, and Paula's knitting workshop thrived in the sunroom. Gabriel lived in the gardener's cottage, teaching in the same rooms where he once schemed. His proudest moment was seeing Diana Chang turn her eviction story into a housing advocacy program that helped hundreds. "Your 9 o'clock is here," Susan announced. Gabriel glanced up to see Jonathan Brooks at the doorway. "Thought we should talk," Jonathan said, "about Melissa, about everything." Walking through the foundation's halls, they watched women learning and building their futures. "She cared for you first," Gabriel said. Jonathan replied, "Later she cared about what you could become. Even then, she saw something in you worth saving." They reached Melissa's garden, now cared for by Samantha, who had turned her love for landscaping into a thriving business. "Samantha's doing great," Jonathan noted. "Her marketing classes are the most popular." Gabriel recalled how Melissa's video had inspired Samantha to honor her father's name and rebuild ties with Haley. Thomas appeared in his doctor's coat. The medical center he ran with Haley had become a model for ethical care. "Dad," he called, a first, "we need your input on the housing project." The project, Gabriel's idea, aimed to give seniors affordable homes to launch businesses. The first residents were moving in next week, on land that once held one of Gabriel's most controversial developments. Inside, the mansion buzzed. Barbara's organizing business now helps others declutter their lives. Her book, dedicated to Melissa, was a success. Susan's pearls now symbolized program graduates, with 3 strands so far. "Special delivery," Emily called, bringing cookies. Her growing company employed 15 other graduates from the foundation. The second anniversary celebration was nothing like the first. This time, there were no secrets to unveil or pain to transform, only success to share and new dreams to build. Haley burst in, thrilled. Mum's group just got their first big client. Meanwhile, Samantha's support group for women with difficult fathers had become a beacon of hope. Partnering with Thomas's medical center, they now offered counseling and career advice. "Melissa would have loved this," Gabriel said, observing the bustling activity. "She does," Susan replied. "This is all her vision." Among the mail, Gabriel found a letter in Melissa's handwriting, her final message to him. "Dear Gabriel, true wealth isn't in money or buildings, but in the lives we change. You lost an empire of lies and gained a legacy of truth. That's the real American dream, not just success, but significance. Keep growing and proving it's never too late to become who you were meant to be. All my love, Melissa." That evening, Gabriel addressed the audience, wearing Melissa's pearls as a symbol of transformation. "A year ago, we thought Melissa's story had ended. We were wrong. It was just the beginning," he said. "She didn't just build a foundation. She built a future for all of us. True power isn't in taking, but in giving. Not in destroying dreams, but nurturing them." Beside him, Jonathan Brooks stood as a partner, their rivalry replaced by purpose. Thomas and Haley sat side by side, their unexpected sibling connection, a living example of Melissa's dream for renewal. Samantha quietly observed from the back of the room as her marketing students, who had previously seemed out of her reach, had given her a love she once believed was unattainable. "Today, we're officially launching the Melissa Sterling Scholarship," Gabriel announced. "This program will give 50 women over 60 the chance to launch their own businesses every year, thanks to the proceeds from the sale of my remaining properties." Susan joined him at the podium, her elegant pearls shining under the lights. And we're expanding, she added with a proud smile. 5 new locations across the nation. Melissa's vision is going nationwide. The celebration carried on into the evening. On plates painted by another scholarship recipient, Emily served her well-known cookies. Paula's vibrant scarves adorned shoulders that now stood taller with confidence and pride. Barbara had seamlessly organized the event, her best-selling book prominently displayed at every table. Out in the garden, under a canopy of stars, Gabriel sat quietly on Melissa's favorite bench. The nearby medical center glowed softly in the distance, a powerful symbol of his newfound values, far removed from his past unethical practices. Beyond it, a housing project stood tall, each home symbolizing a new beginning for someone in need. "You did well, Melissa," he murmured into the night. "You took a man who tore down dreams and turned him into someone who helps rebuild them." A shooting star lit up the sky above. Gabriel touched the pearls hanging around his neck, no longer evidence of guilt, but now a symbol of redemption and hope. Inside, the mansion buzzed with energy. Women who had previously received little attention from society were now leaving their own legacies, not in imposing skyscrapers, but in deeds of bravery and hope. In Melissa's beloved garden, roses she had planted years ago filled the air with their fragrance, carrying her final message on the breeze. True love transforms, true power liberates, and true wealth grows when it's shared. The American dream hadn't ended with Melissa Sterling. Instead, she redefined it, one pearl of wisdom at a time. In the end, that reinvention was her greatest triumph. If this film touches your heart, leave your mark with a like, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to explore more meaningful stories with us. Share your feelings with us and tell us your own stories. Every word you share is a building block that helps create our strong and enduring community. Together, we'll create a warm space where everyone can share and connect. Finally, don't miss the incredible stories coming your way soon. We're always here to bring you the best selections, full of deep values, yet entertaining. See you there.